The Volanthi Empire had ruled the stars for 300 years. They had conquered 17 star systems. They had crushed every species that stood against them. Their warships were the terror of the galaxy, and their warriors were bred for one purpose: victory. Admiral Kethvorin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall, even for a Volanthi. His gray skin was marked with the scars of 100 battles. His 4 eyes looked out at the stars with the cold confidence of a predator who had never known defeat. Around him, 400 warships waited in formation. It was the largest fleet the Empire had sent beyond their borders in 50 years. The Emperor himself had ordered this mission. The Empire needed new worlds, new resources, new slaves, and the galaxy map showed a whole region of space that no one had claimed. "Admiral," said his second officer, a younger Volanthi named Threll, "we are approaching the border coordinates." Kethvorin nodded. He had studied the maps carefully. This region of space was marked with a single word in the old galactic records: restricted. No one knew why. No one remembered who had marked it. The records were thousands of years old, from a time before the Volanthi had even reached the stars. "What do our sensors show?" the Admiral asked. "Several star systems ahead. At least one habitable world. Minimal traffic. Primitive technology signatures." Thrall looked up from his console. "It appears to be a minor civilization, Admiral. Perhaps 2 or 3 billion inhabitants at most." The officers on the bridge laughed. 2 or 3 billion was nothing. The Volanthi homeworld alone held 50 billion. This would be an easy conquest. "Sir," another officer called out, "we are detecting an object ahead. It appears to be some kind of beacon." Kethvorin walked to the main viewing screen. The image showed a small metal structure floating in the void between stars. It was old. Very old. The design was simple, almost crude compared to Volanthi technology. "Scan it," he ordered. The scan took only moments. The beacon was broadcasting a message. It was repeating the same words over and over in every known galactic language. The translation appeared on screen. "This space belongs to the human collective. Entry without authorization is not recommended. You have been warned. There will be no second warning." Silence fell on the bridge. Then Kethvorin laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the command deck. "Humans," he said. "I have heard stories of them. A young species. Barely 5,000 years of civilization. They hide in their little corner of space and never come out. The galactic records say they are dangerous," Thrall said quietly. Kethvorin turned to look at him. "The galactic records also say they have never conquered a single world beyond their own territory. They have never fought a war of expansion. They have never joined any alliance or federation." He walked back to his command chair and sat down. "They are cowards, hiding behind warnings because they are too weak to fight. But the restricted zone, Admiral. Someone marked this region thousands of years ago. Someone wanted others to stay out. And who enforces that restriction?" Kethvorin spread his arms wide. "No one, because no one can. The humans have perhaps a few hundred worlds. We have thousands. They have been in space for a fraction of the time we have. Whatever threat they once posed, it is gone now." He pressed a button on his chair. His voice went out to every ship in the fleet. "Warriors of the Empire, today we begin a great conquest. Beyond this point lies human space. They have warned us to stay out. They think their words will frighten us." He paused for effect. "Let us show them what the Volanthi do to those who think they can command us." A roar went up from the crew. On every ship, warriors beat their chests and shouted battle cries. The sound was terrible and beautiful, the sound of an empire ready for war. The fleet moved forward. They passed the beacon without slowing down. It continued its broadcast, repeating the same warning to empty space. "Set course for the nearest inhabited system," Kethvarin ordered. "Standard invasion approach. We will give them a chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will take their world by force." The stars streamed past as the fleet entered hyperspace. Kethvarin sat back in his chair and thought about the glory that awaited. This would be the beginning of a new age of expansion. The humans would fall, and their worlds would belong to the Empire. He did not think about the warning. He did not wonder why a species that had never attacked anyone would bother to place a beacon at their border. He did not ask himself why every galactic chart, even the oldest ones, showed this region as restricted. That he did not know that 50,000 years ago, humanity had nearly destroyed itself in wars so terrible that they had burned the surface of their own world. He did not know that they had rebuilt, reached the stars, and then nearly destroyed themselves again. And again. And again. 12 times in total. He did not know that each time humanity had become stronger, harder, more dangerous. He did not know that eventually humanity had looked at itself and made a choice. They would stop expanding. They would stop fighting. They would stay within their borders and work on becoming better. They would build defenses so strong that no one would ever be able to threaten them again. And they would warn anyone who came too close. The beacon behind them continued its broadcast. The words floated through the void, unheard. "You have been warned. There will be no second warning." In 12 hours, the Volanthi fleet would arrive at the human border system. In 12 hours, Admiral Kethvarin would learn that some warnings should be taken seriously. But for now, he sat in his chair and dreamed of conquest. He thought of the medals he would receive, the songs that would be sung of his victory, the fear that would spread through the galaxy when other species learned that the Volanthi had crushed the mysterious humans. He had no idea that in 12 hours, everything he believed about power and strength would be destroyed. He had no idea that he was not the predator in this hunt. He was the prey, and he had just walked into a trap that had been waiting for him for 50,000 years. The human border system was called Threshold. It was a simple name for a simple place. One yellow star, one habitable world, 3 gas giants spinning slowly in the outer darkness. The sensors showed perhaps 2 billion people living on the planet below. Admiral Kethvarin looked at the readings and felt disappointed. He had expected more. The mysterious humans, the species that had hidden behind warnings for thousands of years, and this was all they had? A single colony world with basic orbital stations? No defensive fleet, Thrall reported. No weapons platforms that we can detect. The orbital structures appear to be civilian. Trading posts. Communication relays. Nothing military. Perhaps they did not expect us, another officer suggested. Perhaps they thought their warning would be enough. Kethvarin shook his head. Or perhaps they are truly as weak as I suspected. A species that hides instead of fights. A species that warns instead of attacks. He gestured at the view screen. Look at them. They have had thousands of years to build defenses, and this is what they have created. Pathetic. He ordered the fleet into standard intimidation formation. 400 warships arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the planet. It was a display of power that had broken the will of a dozen species before. When your entire sky was filled with enemy ships, most civilizations chose surrender over death. The humans did not respond. No ships launched from the surface. No weapons powered up. No messages demanding to know their intentions. The orbital stations continued their normal operations as if 400 alien warships had not just appeared in their system. They are ignoring us, Thrall said. He sounded confused. Admiral, they are simply ignoring us. Kethvorn felt anger rise in his chest. This was an insult. The Volanthi were the greatest military power in the known galaxy. To be ignored was worse than being attacked. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "All frequencies. Demand their immediate surrender." The message went out. The humans did not reply. Minutes passed. The fleet waited. The planet below continued its business as if nothing was happening. Then, finally, a single ship rose from the surface. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle. The sensors showed no weapons, no shields, no military systems of any kind. It climbed slowly through the atmosphere and headed directly for the flagship. "One ship," an officer laughed. "They send one ship against 400. "It is a diplomatic vessel," Thrall said, studying his console. "They are requesting permission to dock." Kethvorn considered this. Perhaps the humans were not as foolish as they appeared. Perhaps they had looked at the fleet surrounding their world and decided that negotiation was their only hope. "Grant them permission," he said. "Let us hear what they have to say before we destroy them." The human ship docked with the flagship. Security teams waited at the airlock, weapons ready. They expected tricks, hidden bombs, secret weapons. Instead, a single human walked through the door. She was small, much smaller than a Volanthi. She wore simple gray clothing with no armor, no weapons, no visible technology. Her hair was the color of metal, gray mixed with white. Her face was lined with age. She walked slowly, carefully, like someone who had lived a very long time. The security team surrounded her. She did not seem to notice them. She walked past their weapons as if they were not there and made her way to the bridge. Kethvorn watched her approach on the security feeds. He had never seen a human before. They looked soft, fragile. Their skin was thin, their bodies small, their limbs weak. How had such a species survived in a galaxy full of predators? The door to the bridge opened. The human woman walked in. She looked around at the Volanthi officers, at the weapons pointed at her, at the admiral sitting in his command chair. Her expression did not change. There was no fear in her eyes, no anger, nothing but a kind of tired sadness. "I am Ambassador Chun," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. "I represent the human collective." Kethvorn leaned forward. "You represent a species about to be conquered. Your world is surrounded. Your defenses are non-existent. You have nothing." "I am aware of your fleet," the ambassador said. "I am aware that you ignored our warning. I have come to give you one final chance." Laughter erupted on the bridge. The officers could not believe what they were hearing. This tiny, weaponless creature was offering them a chance? The arrogance was almost impressive. "A chance?" Kethvorn asked. "A chance for what?" "To leave." Ambassador Chun took a step closer to his chair. The guards moved to stop her, but she held up a hand. "I am required by our laws to make this offer. You may take your fleet and go. Return to your empire. Tell them that human space is closed. Tell them that the warning was real. If you do this, no one needs to die today." Kethvorn stood. He towered over the human woman. His shadow fell across her like darkness itself. "You threaten us?" he asked. "No," she said, and something in her voice made him pause. "I'm trying to save you." She looked up at him, and for just a moment, he saw something in her eyes. Something old. Something that had seen horrors he could not imagine. "You do not understand what humanity is," she said. "You see a small species hiding in their corner of space. You see weakness. But I am telling you the truth, Admiral. What you see is restraint. What you see is a species that chose to stop fighting because they were afraid of what they might become if they did not." She reached into her pocket. The guards raised their weapons. She pulled out a small device and held it up. "This is a communication link to our defense network. If you attack, if you fire even one weapon at our world, I will activate our response. And then you will learn why the galaxy told you to stay away from human space." Kathvorn looked at the small device in her hand. Then he laughed again. "Take her to a cell," he ordered. "We will decide what to do with her after we have taken the planet." Guards grabbed the ambassador. She did not resist. As they dragged her away, she looked back at the admiral. "I tried," she said softly. "Remember that. When it begins, remember that I tried to save you." The door closed behind her. Kathvorn turned to his officers. "Begin the invasion," he said. "Show these humans what happens to species who dare to threaten the Volanti Empire." The fleet moved toward the planet. And somewhere deep in human space, systems that had been sleeping for centuries began to wake up. The lesson was about to begin. The first shots were fired at exactly noon, ship time. Admiral Kathvorn had ordered a demonstration of power. 10 ships would fire on the largest orbital station, destroying it completely. The humans would see their station burn, and they would understand that resistance was useless. The weapons fired. 10 beams of energy raced toward the station. They never arrived. Something appeared between the weapons and their target. A wall of light, golden and bright, that stretched across space like a shield. The weapon's fire hit the wall and simply stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed, just stopped, as if the energy had decided not to exist anymore. Kathvorn stood up from his chair. "What was that?" "Unknown, Admiral." Thrall was staring at his console with wide eyes. "The shield does not match any known technology. The energy readings are impossible. It would require more power than a star to generate a shield of that size." "Impossible," Kathvorn said. "Nothing is impossible. Fire again. All ships. Full power." 400 warships unleashed their weapons at once. The combined firepower was enough to crack a planet. It was the most destructive display of force the Volanti had ever used. The golden shield did not even flicker. And then the human response began. The orbital stations started to change. They twisted and unfolded like flowers opening in the sun. Metal petals spread outward. New shapes emerged. Weapons platforms, each one the size of a small moon, rising from what had appeared to be simple civilian structures. "They were hiding them," Thrall whispered. The stations were disguises. They were hiding their weapons inside civilian structures. "That is against galactic law," an officer protested. Kathvorn almost laughed at the foolishness of that statement. They had come to conquer these people. They had ignored the warning. And now an officer was complaining about galactic law. The first human weapon fired. It was not a beam of energy. It was not a missile. It was something that the Volanti had no word for. A ripple in space itself, a wave of distortion that moved through the void at impossible speed. 80 ships were in its path. They did not explode. They did not burn. They simply came apart. Metal separated into atoms. Atoms separated into particles. Particles separated into nothing. In less than a second, 80 warships and their crews ceased to exist. Screams filled the communication channels. Captains shouted for orders. Officers demanded to know what was happening. The fleet formation broke apart as ships tried to flee in every direction. "Retreat!" Kathvorn shouted. "All ships, retreat! Jump to hyperspace!" The navigation officer worked frantically at his console. Then he looked up, and there was terror on his face. "We cannot, Admiral. Something is holding us here. The hyperspace drives will not engage." Another wave of distortion swept through the fleet. 60 more ships vanished. Kathvorn grabbed the arms of his chair. This was not possible. The Volanthi had never faced weapons like this. They had never even imagined weapons like this. Then the ambassador's voice filled every speaker on every ship. "This is Ambassador Chun of the Human Collective. You were warned. You were given a chance to leave. You chose to attack instead." Her voice was calm, almost gentle, as if she was explaining something to a child. "Humanity has fought 12 extinction wars. We have burned our own worlds. We have created weapons that could end all life in the galaxy. And then we stopped. We chose to stop. We locked away our weapons and swore never to use them again unless we had no choice. Another wave. Another 50 ships gone. You have given us no choice." The human weapons fired again and again. But Kethvorin noticed something strange. The weapons were not hitting randomly. They were targeting specific ships, the most heavily armed vessels, the command ships, the carriers. They were taking apart the Volanthi military capability with surgical precision. They were not trying to kill everyone. They were trying to teach a lesson. "Admiral," Thrall pointed at the view screen. "Ships approaching." Human vessels emerged from behind the planet. They were smaller than the Volanthi warships, but there were thousands of them. They moved in perfect formation, flowing through space like a swarm of insects. "They are launching boarding craft," an officer reported. "Hundreds of them. They are targeting our surviving ships." Kethvorin felt something he had never felt before in his long career of conquest. He felt helpless. His weapons could not touch them. His shields could not stop them. His engines could not escape them. The humans were not just defeating them. They were dismantling them, a boarding craft attached to the flagship's hull. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Security teams rushed to defend against the intruders. All hands prepared to repel boarders. Kethvorin drew his personal weapon, an ancient blade that had been in his family for generations. "They want this ship. They will have to take it from our dead hands." The first humans came through the breach in the hull. They were covered in armor that seemed to shift and change as Kethvorin watched. Black metal that flowed like liquid. Weapons that glowed with the same golden light as the shields. They moved with a speed and precision that should not have been possible. The security team fired. The humans did not slow down. Their armor absorbed the weapon's fire. It changed color where it was hit, adapting to the energy frequency. After 3 shots, the Volanthi weapons did nothing at all. The humans returned fire. They did not aim to kill. They aimed for weapons, for legs, for arms. The Volanthi warriors fell screaming, wounded but alive. One by one, the corridors of the flagship were cleared. One by one, the crew was captured. Not killed. Captured. Kethvorin stood alone on the bridge, his blade in his hand. Around him, his officers lay wounded on the floor. The door opened, and a single human soldier walked in. The soldier removed his helmet. He was young. His eyes were a strange color, blue like the sky of Kethvorin's homeworld. He looked at the admiral without anger, without hatred. "It is over," the soldier said. "Drop your weapon. You will not be harmed." Kethvorin looked at the blade in his hand. The blade that had killed so many enemies over the years. The blade that was now useless against these impossible humans. He let it fall to the floor. "What will you do with us?" he asked. The soldier smiled. It was a sad smile, the same sad smile the ambassador had worn. "We will teach you," he said. "We will show you what we are, and then we will send you home to tell the others." He stepped forward and placed a hand on Kethvorin's shoulder. "The lesson is almost over, Admiral. But the hardest part is still to come." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 300 Volanthi ships remained from the original 400. Every single one had been boarded and captured. Not one had escaped. Admiral Kethvorin was taken to the planet's surface. He expected prisons, torture chambers, the things the Volanti themselves did to captured enemies. Instead, he was brought to a building that looked like a garden. Trees grew inside it. Water flowed through channels in the floor. Birds sang in the branches above. A human met him at the entrance. She was old, older than anyone Kethvarn had ever seen. Her skin was like paper, thin and wrinkled. She walked with a cane, slowly and carefully. "I am Keeper Lin," she said. "I maintain the records of our people. You have questions. I am here to answer them." Kethvarn had many questions. The one was more important than all the others. "How?" he asked. "How did you develop such weapons? Such technology? Our intelligence said you were a young species. Primitive. Weak." Keeper Lin smiled. She gestured for him to follow her, and they walked together through the garden. "Your intelligence was wrong," she said. "Humanity is not young. We simply choose to appear that way." She led him to a room deep inside the building. The walls were covered with images, pictures, recordings, history. "This is the archive," she said. "Here we keep the truth of what we are." The images began to play. Kethvarn watched in silence. He saw Earth, a blue world, beautiful and green. He saw humanity rise from simple beginnings. He saw them build cities, create art, discover science. Then he saw the wars. The first Great War killed millions. The second killed tens of millions. Weapons grew more terrible with each conflict. Fire fell from the sky. Cities burned. The ground itself became poison. "Our third extinction war," Keeper Lin said quietly. "We used nuclear weapons. We nearly destroyed our own planet. But humanity survived. They rebuilt. They reached for the stars. And then they found other species, other civilizations. We thought the universe would be different," the Keeper continued. "We hoped we would find friends, teachers. We hoped the stars would show us a better way. Instead, they found enemies, species that wanted to conquer them, to enslave them, to destroy them. We fought back," she said. "And we won. But victory changed us." The images showed human fleets, massive armadas that blocked out the stars. They showed weapons that could destroy suns, ships that could travel between galaxies. Technology so advanced that it seemed like magic. Each war made us stronger. Each enemy we defeated gave us new knowledge, new weapons, new power. Keeper Lin's voice was heavy with old sorrow. "After 12 extinction wars, there was nothing in the galaxy that could threaten us. Then why did you stop?" Kethvarn asked. "If you were so powerful, why did you not conquer everything? Why did you hide?" Keeper Lin turned to face him. Her old eyes were full of something that Kethvarn did not understand at first. Then he recognized it. "It was shame, because we looked at what we had become," she said. "And we were horrified." More images played. They showed human soldiers, changed by war into something barely recognizable. They showed weapons being used on civilian populations. They showed entire species wiped out because they might someday become a threat. "We have become the monsters we once fought against," the Keeper said. "We had told ourselves it was for survival, for protection. But it was not. It was habit. It was fear. It was the dark part of our nature that loves destruction." She waved her hand, and the images stopped. 50,000 years ago, humanity made a choice. We would stop. We would go home. We would build walls around ourselves and never leave again. We would use all our terrible knowledge to create defenses so strong that no one could ever threaten us. She paused. "And we would hope that in time we might become better than what we were." Kethvarn thought about what he had seen. The weapons that unmade matter. The shields that stopped anything. The ships that moved faster than thought. "You are afraid of yourselves," he said slowly. Yes, Keeper Lin nodded. We are the most dangerous thing in this galaxy, Admiral. We know this. And so we hide. We stay behind our borders. We warn others to stay away. Not because we are weak, but because we know that if we leave our space, we will become what we were before. Conquerors. Destroyers. Monsters. But we attacked you. We ignored your warning. Yes, and so we responded. She began walking again, leading him back toward the entrance. But even in our response, we tried to be better. Your ships were captured, not destroyed. Your crews were wounded, not killed. We could have erased your entire fleet in seconds. Instead, we took the time to be precise, to be merciful. They reached the garden again. Sunlight streamed through the glass ceiling. It was beautiful and peaceful, nothing like the horror of the battle above. You will be returned to your empire, Keeper Lin said. You and all your surviving crews. You will carry a message to your emperor. You will tell him what you have seen, what you have learned. He will not believe me, Cathvorn said. Yes, he will. The keeper handed him a small device. This contains recordings of the battle. Every moment, every weapon, every impossible thing you witnessed. Show it to him. Show it to everyone. She turned away from him, looking out at the garden. We do not want war, Admiral. We have seen too much war. We want only to be left alone, to work on becoming the species we should have been from the beginning. Her voice grew harder. But if anyone attacks us again, we will not be so merciful. Tell your emperor this. Tell all the species of the galaxy. Cathvorn looked at the device in his hand. Such a small thing to carry such a terrible truth. Why do you care if other species know? He asked. You are powerful enough to defeat anyone. Keeper Lin turned back to him. Her smile was sad and tired. Because every war, even one we win, brings out the darkness in us. Every time we fight, we remember what we were, what we could become again. She shook her head slowly. We warn others away not to protect ourselves, Admiral. We warn them away to protect everyone, including you. She walked away, leaving him alone in the garden with the weight of everything he had learned. The most powerful species in the galaxy was hiding not from the universe, but from itself. And he had just forced them to remember who they really were. 3 days passed. Admiral Cathvorn was kept in comfortable quarters on the planet's surface. He was not treated like a prisoner. He was treated like a guest. Humans brought him food, talked with him, answered his questions. They were polite and kind, nothing like the warriors who had torn through his fleet. It made everything worse. On the 4th day, Ambassador Chun came to see him. She looked the same as she had on his ship. Small, old, tired. But now, Cathvorn saw her differently. He knew what she represented. He understood the power that stood behind her gentle voice. Your fleet is ready to leave, she said. Your crews have been healed. Your ships have been repaired. You may go home. Cathvorn stood up from his chair. You repaired our ships? We damaged them. It seemed right to fix them. She sat down across from him. Would you like some tea before you go? It is a human tradition. We drink tea when we have difficult conversations. He did not know what tea was, but he sat back down. A servant brought 2 small cups of hot brown liquid. The ambassador drank from hers, so Cathvorn did the same. It was bitter but not unpleasant. I have a question, he said. Ask. Why did you let us live? Your keeper showed me your history. You destroyed entire species that threatened you. You have weapons that could erase our empire in days. Why show mercy now? Ambassador Chun held her cup in both hands, looking down at the liquid inside. Because mercy is the whole point, she said. 50,000 years ago, we chose to be better. We chose to stop killing. But a choice is meaningless if it is never tested. You tested us. You attacked us. And we chose mercy anyway. She looked up at him. Every time we make that choice, we prove that we can be something other than what we were. Every time we spare an enemy instead of destroying them, we become more human and less monster. She smiled slightly. You helped us, Admiral. You gave us a chance to prove ourselves. HFY did not know how to respond to that. He had come to conquer these people, and they were thanking him for attacking them. What do you want from the Empire? He asked. What are your terms? We have no terms. We want nothing from you except distance. She set down her cup. Go home. Tell your Emperor what happened here. Tell him that human space is closed. Tell him that we will never expand, never conquer, never threaten anyone who leaves us alone. And if he does not believe me? If he sends another fleet? The ambassador's eyes grew cold. Just for a moment, HFY saw something ancient and terrible looking out at him. Then there will be no survivors to carry messages. We showed mercy once. We will not show it twice. She stood up. The galaxy is wide, Admiral. There are countless stars and countless worlds. Your empire can grow in any direction except toward us. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is the way things are. HFY stood as well. My emperor will want revenge. He will not accept this defeat. Then he will lose more fleets, more warriors, more ships. Ambassador Chun walked toward the door. We have been fighting wars for 50,000 years, Admiral. We have seen every strategy, every trick, every weapon that any species has ever created. There is nothing your emperor can do that will surprise us. There is nothing he can build that will threaten us. She opened the door. But I hope he is wiser than that. I hope he looks at the recordings and understands. I hope he chooses to leave us alone and focus on building something good instead of destroying something he cannot defeat. HFY followed her out into the sunlight. A shuttle was waiting to take him to his fleet in orbit. One last question, he said. She turned back. In all your 50,000 years of isolation, has no one ever come to you in peace? Has no one ever asked to be your ally? Your friend? Ambassador Chen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft with an old sadness. Many have, and we have refused them all, because friendship requires trust, and we do not trust ourselves. She looked up at the sky, at the stars that were invisible in the daylight. How can we trust ourselves with allies when we are still learning to trust ourselves not to become conquerors again? How can we take responsibility for others when we are still struggling with the darkness in our own hearts? She looked back at him. Perhaps someday we will be ready. Perhaps in another 50,000 years, we will have become the species we want to be. Until then, we stay alone. We keep to ourselves. We wait and hope and try to be better every day. The shuttle door opened. HFY stepped inside, then turned back one last time. I think I understand now, he said. You are not hiding from the galaxy. You are protecting it from yourself. Ambassador Chun nodded slowly. Tell your emperor. Tell your people. Tell everyone. Her voice carried across the distance between them. The humans are not the enemy. The humans are trying not to be anyone's enemy. And the best thing the galaxy can do is leave us alone to fight our own battle. The door closed. The shuttle rose into the sky. HFY watched the planet grow smaller beneath him. He thought about everything he had learned. The weapons, the power, the terrible history, the desperate hope. Humanity had become gods, and they had chosen to lock themselves away because they were afraid of what gods could do. As his fleet prepared to jump into hyperspace, HFY made a decision. He would tell the Emperor everything. He would show him the recordings. He would argue for peace. And if the emperor refused to listen, Catvorn would resign his commission. He had spent his life as a conqueror. He had believed that strength meant domination, that power meant victory, that the strong had the right to rule the weak. The humans had shown him another way. They had shown him that true strength was restraint. True power was the ability to destroy and the choice not to. True victory was not defeating your enemies, but defeating the darkness in yourself. The fleet jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, the human world continued its quiet existence. The beacon at the border continued its broadcast. This space belongs to the human collective. Entry without authorization is not recommended. You have been warned. There will be no second warning. Far away, in the depths of human space, Ambassador Chan returned to her garden. She sat down beside a small pond and watched the fish swim in circles. Another test passed. Another enemy turned away without extinction. Another step toward becoming what they wanted to be. It was not much. 50,000 years of trying, and they were still so far from where they wanted to be. The darkness was still there, waiting. The old weapons were still ready, sleeping in their vaults. But today, they had shown mercy. Today they had been better, and tomorrow they would try again. That was all they could do. Try. Hope. Wait and pray that someday they would earn the right to rejoin the galaxy. Not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as the humans they had always dreamed they could be.